Hello, I'm Dr. Marcea, and I am your life and business coach for professional women. And the question I have for you today is, who doesn't love an animated movie with a message? And yes, I'm talking about cartoons. I think Disney, Pixar, and DreamWorks Studios, they've all done a great job producing classics whose messages transcend both time and space. I'm going to give you some examples. The first is Mulan, right? And so that is the story of a female warrior who saves her country and upholds her father's honor. Then a crowd favorite is always The Lion King, and it's a story of a son learning a very hard lesson in life and also fulfilling his destiny as king. And my personal favorite is a movie called Inside Out. And it's a story that underscores the emotional battle within us all and how all feelings, whether viewed as positive or negative, good or bad, like joy or anger, even sadness, are all necessary. But there's one cartoon that has so many stellar messages that it's really hard to keep track. And I want you to see if you can guess which one I'm talking about. And I'm going to give you a couple of clues. Okay. So the clues are it involves martial arts, a mission, and a mirror. Can anybody pull out which one that is? And yes, I'm talking about Kung Fu Panda. And it features a very lovable character named Po. And if you remember, he was a giant-sized panda who's seemingly destined to his distress to a life making noodles, only promised to one day get access to his father's secret recipe. But he loves kung fu and he dreams of being a warrior and fighting alongside his idol warriors, the Furious Five. But one day, an unlikely series of events lands him right in the middle of the action, and he is chosen by the elder Master Agwe, who is an old and wise tortoise, to be the dragon warrior, which is the legendary kung fu prodigy. Now, Po is chosen by accident above the Furious Five warriors who have been training their entire life for this moment. And now Po was responsible for defending this special dragon scroll and ultimately saving his people from Tai Lung, who's the arch enemy in the story. Now, as the story goes, Po struggled living his dream of Kung Fu because he doubted who he was. And not only that, his father doubted him, and certainly the Furious Five doubted him. And the Furious Five were made up of viper and crane and monkey and mantis and even tigress. And when Master Shifu questioned Agwe about his choice, he responded very wise. He says, there are no accidents. But what happens next is so good. But I want to pause for a second to ask who here would expect to learn profound leadership lessons from a movie about a noodle-loving panda? Well, today we're going to explore how this unlikely hero's journey mirrors the path many of us take as leaders. But more importantly, what it teaches us about unlocking your own hidden potential. And so I want you just to kind of go back in your mind, and I want you to think about some of the leaders who have inspired you the most? And the question is, were they perfect? And did they fit the traditional mold? Poe, our protagonist, certainly did not. He had multiple things that were going against him. First, he was a noodle shop worker, but dreaming of something bigger. He was physically unsuited for his chosen path. He was a clumsy, oversized panda, and he was doubted by everyone, including himself. And lastly, he was chosen by fate or accident, depending on your perspective, for something greater. Does any of that sound familiar to you in your journey? Many of us, including myself, have felt like imposters in our leadership roles, questioning whether we truly belong here. And I want, though, to use the 3 acts of this movie to share some key tips. And I'm also going to call these 3 acts the 3 stages of potential. All right. So I want you to make sure you get a notebook because I'm going to be dropping some gems. All right. So here we go. So the first stage is facing failure. Poe's first day of training wasn't just bad. It was horrific. I mean, he failed at every single challenge. You may recall from the movie that he was thrust into a deadly training program along with the 5. And he is asked to punch something that they call the adversary, which was this seemingly innocuous blow up dummy in the training hall. And as a result, he gets a rebound hit that thrusts him into a training course. And he fails each one, whether it was the jade torture of wisdom, the gauntlet of wooden warriors, the 7 clubs of instant oblivion, and something called the field of fiery death. Poe, the oversized, clumsy, unskilled, unsuited, and ill-prepared warrior, left feeling like a failure, feeling defeated, and verbally ridiculed by the Furious 5. And after the end of that dismal day, Master Shifu, he goes to check on Poe, expecting him to be back in the training hall. But Master Shifu, he's further frustrated because when he finds Poe, he finds him in the kitchen, stuffing his face. And that's when Master Shifu knew that clearly eating was part of Poe's problem. But here's what's interesting about failure. It shows us exactly where we need to grow. Every leader has their own field of fiery death. It's that challenge that seems impossible to overcome. And I want to ask, what's yours? What's your field of fiery death that you're facing, that you're struggling with? Stage number 2 is called the power of showing up. All right, I want you to say, show up. Okay, Poe's superpower wasn't his kung fu skills, clearly. Okay, but it was his resilience. Despite being humiliated, despite the pain, despite everyone telling him that he didn't belong, he showed up every single day. Again, I want you to say, show up. Granted, he was no better at kung fu, but his perseverance, his persistence, and his determination were unbreakable. This is where most of us give up. But true potential isn't unlocked in a single moment of brilliance. It's unlocked through consistent effort, the willingness to look foolish, determination to learn, and the courage to try again, the courage to get up, to keep showing up, to keep being present. What happened with Poe is that his persistence was recognized by the five, and they began to have sympathy for the struggling panda. Now, the third stage is called transformation through challenge. The real magic happens when we stop trying to be someone else and we start leveraging who we are. Poe's breakthrough came when Master Shifu realized that food, which was that problem that prevented him from succeeding the traditional way, could motivate him. And so instead of forcing Poe to train like everyone else, Master Shifu adapted the training to Poe's unique characteristics. And so now the time comes for Poe to rise to the challenge. When the snow leopard Tai Lung unexpectedly escapes captivity, his grand mission was to steal the dragon scroll, that secret that's only for the dragon warrior. He believed that if he could capture the dragon scroll, he would be the dragon warrior. Now, the Furious Five take the lead to try to stop Tai Lung, and they are easily defeated one by one. But now the moment of truth for the real dragon warrior to show up. And so Poe now emerges, self-proclaiming himself to be the dragon warrior, and he changes his destiny and changes the destiny of his people. He is the unlikely hero, but he uses his greatest weakness as his greatest strength. He uses the whooshy finger hold, an effortless appearing maneuver, something he picked up in his training that ultimately breaks Tai Lung down and gives Poe the victory. Leaders, look, just like Poe, our quirks, our challenges, even our weaknesses can become our greatest strengths, but only if we embrace them. And let's not forget to highlight the fact that Poe needed a mentor, Master Shifu, to help identify and unlock his potential. So now, after the battle was over and Poe is successful, he's now back in the training hall. And the most powerful moment in Poe's journey and in the movie comes when he finally opens and unrolls that dragon scroll, the supposed source of ultimate power. But what does he find? The scroll is just a mere mirror. And Poe sees only his own reflection. This revelation reveals three profound truths about leadership potential. The first is that there is no secret sauce, whether in the noodle recipe or in life. The power lies within each of us. I call it the X factor. The second truth is that we must discover our potential through action, not theory. There are some battles that we have to go through in order to discover and to unroof our hidden potential. And then the third truth is that our unique qualities are exactly the thing that makes us effective leaders. So how do we unlock our own potential as leaders? I've touched on some of them, but I want to recap them this way. The first one is to show up. Somebody say show up. We have to embrace the daily challenge of leadership, even when it's hard. Next, we have to use what we have. Your unique characteristics are your advantage. We can't look at someone else's strengths and try to mimic them. We can glean something from their journey, but we have to have our own unique characteristics. The next is to face the battle. Growth happens in the moments of challenge. The growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens through struggle. And we have to get into the battle because that is what makes us great. And then the last part is trusting the process. Your potential reveals itself through action, not contemplation. And we can't circumvent the process and jump ahead. We can't read the cliff notes for this journey. I remember when I learned this lesson. I remember always hiding, muting my voice, shying away from the spotlight. Why? Because I had a birthmark on my face that I hated. And on top of that, I also stuttered. And this 1-2 punch left me questioning my value. And it rocked my self-esteem to the core. And it left me living under my potential for decades. But through the challenge of living through and leaving a narcissistic relationship, I embraced my flaws and turned them into my superpowers. And now I coach, I speak, and I lead globally. That's my victory. And so, like Poe, each of you has been chosen, whether by circumstance, by choice, or by accident, to lead. And like Poe, your greatest potential might lie in the very qualities that you think disqualify you. The only question is, are you ready to unlock it? Are you ready to go into battle? Are you ready to take that leadership mantle that's waiting for you? And so you're asking how, and there's a couple of questions that I want you to jot down that's going to help you along the road ahead. The first is for you to identify what's the equivalent of Poe's food motivation for you. What drives you? What empowers you? What matters to you? The second question is, what does your mentorship starting 5 look like? Who do you have in your corner to cheer you on, to celebrate your success, and even to identify those blind spots? And then the last question is, what's your current field of fiery death challenge? And how can you use your superpower to now approach it differently? Remember, you are destined for success. As Master Agwe said, there are no accidents. You just need to show up. You need to use what you have. You need to face the battle, and you need to trust the process. I am Dr. Marcea, the life and business coach for professional women who are building businesses. And I invite you to download my free gift to you, the top 100 beliefs to living the girl boss life. And you can grab that by going to drmarcea.com. That's drmarcea.com. It is time to unlock your hidden potential as a leader. Take care.